me a little bit about its origin and a little bit about how it has been received historically. Could you say a little bit about that?
Well, remigration is as old as the world. There has been conquest, foreign occupation, colonization, as we are subjected to now. It only ends by the departing of the occupying forces and of the colonial occupiers. So it's always existed. I gave you the example of Algeria, which is very significant in the way that there were indeed remigration, but there was no disapprobation in the world at all. And the example is not entirely satisfactory indeed, because it was very violent and very aggressive on the part of the Algerian, who wanted the French, who, it is important to remember, had been there in Algeria for much longer than the actual colonial occupier in Europe. They forces them to depart, contrary to the treaty which has been passed between France and Algeria, and they had to leave very fast. And I think that it is a good occasion to show the difference in civilization, and I think that remigration organized by state power can be a very peaceful and pleasant experience for everybody. I think, for instance, I have a great hatred, since I'm strongly ecologist, for those horrible ships who goes around for cruising in the world, you know, and I think those should be confiscated, and they should be perfect for remigration. Luxury cruise Costa should be perfect for remigration. Of course, one wonders in what state they would arrive at the other side of the, but that's another question. But I think remigration should be well organized and peaceful.
Thank you. I'll follow up with another key idea which has been mentioned here today, and the homeland party. The idea is of a homeland. Could you say a little bit about this key concept? What is a homeland, and why is that a way to found a party?
So a nation is built on its people, and that's actually where the word originates from. So the homeland is simply a party to represent the people of that geographical area. And people are made up of their DNA, their genetic heritage, and also their ethnicity, which is based on their cultural heritage that has many different facets. And without Norwegians, there's no Norway. You can import all the people you like, give them citizenships, but if they're not ethnic Norwegians, Norway will not be Norway. Simple as that. You can import people and they can claim to assimilate, but that never happens. Assimilation is only good in tiny, tiny numbers, 5%, 10% of a nation. If you go beyond that, as soon as people of a like ethnicity gather together, they start to flex and dominate and want to introduce their culture, their heritage, their ethnicity, and dominate. We see that in the UK, where we have now got 5 MPs who are all elected on a Muslim ticket in areas somewhere where they're only 30% of the population. But what they do is they vote as one dynamic bloc. They have the in-group preference that we as people in Europe don't often have. And for us, we believe very strongly in ethnicity and identity, and believe we have a right to a homeland. The United Nations Declaration of Human Rights enshrines that, and that applies to people all over the world, but not crucially to Europeans. In fact, some years ago the British government declined to declare the indigenous British as indigenous. It's absolutely insane, and yet they have you heard of Cheddar Man?
Yes.
Tens of thousands year old skeleton they've dug up, And do you know, within 20 miles of where this skeleton was found, they found one of this man's relatives, still living, still occupying that same ground. Yet they will tell us we are a nation of immigrants. It's a lie, it's nonsense. Ethnicity matters. Ethnicity shapes a nation, shapes the people. And that's worth defending. That's our homeland, and that's what we're fighting for.
Thank you. That's a very good description of what we meet every day, also in form of questions from the press. For instance, what is really a Norwegian? Isn't anyone crossing the border becoming a Norwegian? Even the Norwegian king is insecure of what Norwegian is. And I think it's a nationality or a citizen of a nation is made up by a number of parameters. Then it went off. Maybe it's the battery.
We'll try again.
Thank you. I like to see it as I do to tell also some journalists asking, but isn't he a Norwegian? Isn't he a Norwegian? Or he? I said it's kind of a point system because nationality is made up by, for instance, ethnology. We can't avoid to mention that. It's made up of language, religion, history, culture. It's the sum of everything. And some will get a few points by learning Norwegian, but is still not a Norwegian. And they can add further to that and maybe become good citizens. But a Norwegian, it's a kind of patent. They just can't steal it. But I'm claiming there are Norwegians without meeting some parameters, I think that's one of the cruising questions. I'm very disappointed by many high-ranked Norwegians that don't know what a Norwegian is. And I want to say one more thing. This kind of roundtable lineup that we are having here reminds me of lineups I've seen with the former Norwegian Prime Minister, Erna Solberg. She was also in a conference down in Europe somewhere. And she bragged about a lot of things.
Har vi en extra, Igor? We'll try again, and no, the technical director is picking up a second microphone, so we'll hope this works.
And then she said something that I've used a lot of times, and now this party here, also they call themselves right. They are not right at all. They are the new right that is not right, like it is in many countries. And she said that Norwegians have no more rights to Norway than anyone else, she said. And I have not let her forget. And she also said something else, because this was in a period where the supranational entities wanted the people of Europe to do a lot of strange things, to be obedient about many things, about climate, whatever, about COVID, to take a jab and all that. And she said that we need to manipulate them, we need to make them afraid so that they do what we want. She said on television, like we are sitting now. It's not so strange, they're down on 13%, I think. Thank you.
Kanskje du kan si noe om Sverige I det senere? Ja. I mean, just raise your hand and I'll give you the microphone. I'm sure many have opinions.
Du sitter og blåser da?
And the next speaker is,
I have a comment.
I think, yeah, Rebecca first, and then Jeff, perhaps.
I just want to play into what you said about being Norwegian. And I think that, just to make that clear for everyone that does not speak Norwegian, we have two terms of what it means to be Norwegian. We have nordmann and norsk, and that is a Northman and a Norwegian, and there's a difference to that. To be a Northman is to be a part of an ethnic Norwegian group. And with that said, I think every nation has, as peoples, that you said today, there's cues. There's silent cues to being a part of a people. It's not just about culture. What you see in culture is about what you don't see. It's about the understanding of each other that we don't acknowledge with words. And that's hard. It's hard to be a part of that. It's hard to come into that. And I'm sure for everybody that has moved somewhere else in the world, that be the UK, which I did, I lived in the UK for a while, or Sweden, for that matter, which is very different to Norwegians. We're not the same at all. Many people might think so, but we're not. And it all has to do with the subtle, unspoken rules of what it means to be Norwegian and Swedish. And you cannot fake that. You cannot move across the border or take the subway and become Swedish. I heard that's a thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, we're one people. And you can be included in that group, but it's not something that you can learn. You cannot learn it in a language course. You cannot learn it in school. This is a generation of understanding between peoples. Thank you.
And this is very important because, like I said in my speech, I really want a closer Nordic cooperation. But as I said, it would have to be respectful because we are different peoples. There are differences, and we'll be speaking about history and generations and so on. Of course, that's a thing. And the ones who claims that there are no ethnicities, well, the same people often have no problem to claim that Palestinians, for example, if you take left-wing politicians, say, oh, the Palestinians have a right to our own country, okay, because they are Palestinians. Then ethnicity is okay. And we have on the right-wing parties, or the political correct right-wing parties, they say, well, the Israelis they have a right, an ethnic right, which is even in the constitution of Israel, an ethnic right to Israel. But when it comes to Europe, then we're there again. Then it's Nazi, 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 always. And it's ridiculous, and it's hypocrisy, because every people have the right to their own way of cultures, of course. But there's also this thing that also the political parties that are more political correct, they also use the term second generation immigrant. They also saying the same thing that we're saying, ethnicity matters. Our former social democratic Premier Minister, Stefan Löfven, also said it's in our DNA, according to a specific question. It's in the Swedish DNA to behave in a certain way. So sometimes they slip and acknowledge that that's the way it is. The problem is, I don't look down on other people like many have spoken about. It's the real diversity is to maintain this in all countries around the world. Absolutely. And that's important to say. And everything else is extreme. And what about immigrants and so on, I think that the ethnic people, the Swedes, we are the one to define what is Swedish culture. So when a Norwegian comes to Sweden, of course, there will be very little problems because we are very much alike, even though there are differences, of course. But a Norwegian can never tell me what's Swedish culture. You can become a good citizen, a simulated citizen, respecting the country that you are in, but you will never tell me as a Swede what is mine and my people's culture. And that's a big difference to make, which, of course, it's possible to have small numbers of immigrants. The closer the cultural ties are, the bigger the group can be. Nordic immigration is not a problem because we have a movement of freedom since a long time between the Nordic countries. But even European immigration can't be too big because that will be a problem. Not in the scale of non-European immigration, but it will lead to conflict, and that's not a good way to handle European cooperation at a greater level. So we have to respect each other's diversity. We have to respect the real diversity, and well, talk about it also.
A short comment on that issue. I've been living in a Muslim country for 2 years. Some of my best friends are Muslims. They are good people, there as everywhere else. And it has very little to do with that. When we were living there, we respected their norms, their culture, their religion, and their way of life. And we behaved according to their rules when we were living in their countries. I expect them, when they come to my country, to respect my rules and my country, my culture, our values, our religion, and not to take it over. It's as simple as that, I think. But there is one more comment I'd like to make, and that is, it's remarkable to see, you know, the different reports we've had now from different countries, from France, from Germany, from UK and Ireland and Sweden. You know, the way we describe the situation with the mass migration to our countries is very, very similar. Why is that? You know, is there, and I would like to hear your comments as you're coming. Is this a result of a planned, conscious, collective behavior across the nations of Europe, or some men in the cave in Davos? Or has it all occurred as a result of different choices that has been made by different people, different politicians in different countries, based on a more diffuse ideology? Is it, you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, and I don't, in general, believe in conspiracies. I believe in what I see with my own eyes, but I certainly would like to hear your comments on this.
Well, thank you. You uttered the famous question of all the left-wing journalists. Well, usually it's not a question. Say, you are defending a conspiracy theory. And at the beginning I was extremely surprised because I never mentioned the slightest conspiracy. And I was wondering why they were speaking about that. Of course, I'm quite sure that it never happened that a lot of people went into a room and had decided that they would change the population of Europe. It's not a matter of will, it's a matter of logic. I always say that the Great Replacement is not a theory, and indeed it is not, but I have a theory which I call global replaceism. I'm convinced that the very gesture of modernity is a replacement of things. We live in a world entirely replaced, which started by Henry Ford, for instance, deciding that in a car you could replace everything by cheaper material and less material. And in 1 century, this what I call replaceism has taken over the whole world, and we live in a fake world because replacement implies falsity. If you replace something or somebody by somebody else, even if the thing is very similar to the thing it replaced, it is not the thing it replaced. So lying in falsity is at the center of what I call Davocracy, the government of the world by Davos, that is the big tech and the big states and the banker, and a conception of the world which is purely economical and financial, or what Heidegger called the machination. I never spoke of a conspiracy, but there is a machination, which is that men are becoming machines and are also becoming products. I don't think anymore people are important because they will be cheaper for factories, cheaper workers. I think they are product capable of being exchanged. What Davocracy wants is a general exchangeability of the world. It's not a person, it's a machine. If you start thinking in a purely economical way, it is of course the worst for ecology, because you treat the world as if it was something to be exploited economically, and you treat people like they are objects. And of course what Davocracy wants is a crazy idea that there will be more and more people and consumers for the very consummation of the world. And of course the European people who have a very low reproduction which is two in English, rate, are not interesting for them. They want to replace them for people who have a very high reproduction rate, because they will produce more consumer. And the objection to that is, of course, that those new people have no money, so how would they consume it? But they will have no money, because what is called social transfer is in fact nothing else than ethnic or racial transfer. And even if there was no such transfer to give them money, they would still need housing and roads to go to their housing, and schools and hospitals and even gadgets. And that is what money wants, and what is the lie of the real lie of what the Marxists used to call the great capital. The great capital has no interest for the right. What loves the great capital is now the left, because the left has the two things the great capital want: equality and anti-racism, which are the condition of general exchangeability. And this is why you can see the publicity or the great film, they are very much for more and more immigration and more equality and more anti-racism. Or the publicity calls for replaceism, and they show always mixed couple. I don't know if it's the same thing in Norway and in French. In France, you never see in publicity a French couple. And so it's definitely not a conspiracy, but it is a logical mechanism at work who want global replaceism and mass immigration.
So if you say there's a global conspiracy, they're quick on you and they'll tell you that you're a nutcase of some kind. But you have got instances, like Jeff says, where the mask slips. The Prime Minister of the UK, Keir Starmer, said mass immigration and demographic replacement is happening by design. You know, it's not a conspiracy, they're literally admitting to it. We've seen before, you know, communism, who said they could destabilize the West through immigration. So these things have been happening for a long time. They might not be all sitting around the one table having the chat, but they are deliberately trying to destabilize our nations through mass immigration and disconnect us from our culture and our heritage and our land. And another thing you spoke about earlier, Jeff, is that, and I've been saying it for a long time, nationalists and patriots are the true defenders of multiculturalism, because we want a globe that's diverse, that everybody is allowed to have their homeland, to practice their culture and their heritage in the way that they see fit for themselves. And what liberal progressivism and communism and all these other things do is destroy that and wipe that away. We are the only people who value and respect every other people's heritage and way of life.
Jordan, would you say something?
Okay. If I could. Could you say something with respect to Ireland? I hope that you could say that, because we are watching a lot of news reports about public, what should we say, riots or disturbances?
Unrest, that's
yeah, unrest. Please give us some insight on Ireland.
Ireland is a unique case, I suppose, in that we have historically been colonised and had to suffer the same fate as many of these global south countries had to. And we have a unique position that we can oppose mass immigration, which in other countries is framed as, oh, it's justice, you're getting it because you went to these countries and took their things and exploited their people, then it's right that they come back and do it to you. And in Ireland's case, that's not true at all. So the justification you would see is often that, but the Irish fled Ireland, they went to all these other countries, and therefore you must accept unlimited migrants now to pay for the crime of fleeing your nation. In Ireland, the vast majority of people are what you would call nationalist, but it's just different kind of flavours of nationalism. You've got like left-wing nationalism, which I would argue isn't really nationalism, but they claim it is, and then you've got more traditional nationalism, which is the National Party and the organisation I'm representing here today. I have to lose my train of thought there now. The position of Ireland and the unrest you're seeing is because we have had to fight fiercely to defend the very little things that we have managed to keep over centuries. It started, you could go all the way back to the Vikings, is where we could originally say that it started. And we had to fight from then for about 1,000 years just to keep little bits of our heritage intact over generations. And now in the space of 10 years, we've seen our population change from a majority Irish to now almost 1 in 4 people are not born on the island of Ireland, and it's only accelerating further and further. And we are a tribal people at heart, and when we see that level of change so rapidly, and it's affecting things that we hold so dear, we inherently oppose it, and we're very, very vocal in our opposition to things like that.
You raised one interesting thing. Not that Ireland wasn't colonized, but a lot of countries has been. And the colonizers retracted, right? Yet somehow, those people that are now free of colonization really wants to go to their colonizers. And I never saw the logic behind that, so I just wanted to raise that thought so you can take it with you tonight.
Okay, time moves quickly, so I'll have one question. I would like us to pass through the whole line of the people, and the question is, how do we move forward? How do we move forward? Politically, in terms of activism, in terms of transforming societies from the state where we are today until where we want to go. So we'll start on this end with Jeffal, and we'll move towards that side. And I would ask you to maximum use 2 minutes. We have to finish at 4. Or is it 5? 4.
I'll try to keep it short. It's Swedish. It's close. Anyway, I already addressed that in my speech, but I can't say it again because it's good to repeat things. have to understand that different organizations, different persons have different jobs to do in this question. Like I say, our think tank can go much further than a political party, and activists can also go further than a political party. But you have done a great job inviting free media to this event, and not only the mainstream media. That's a big step, because the free media, they can of course go further in their leaders. I don't know the English words when you have a leader. Editorial, texts and stuff, and think tanks and activists. But we have to accept that the political parties cannot always do that, and that political parties sometimes have to maneuver in the political landscape. I will criticize Sweden Democrats and all other political parties that are in our field, of course, when they don't do what they're supposed to, but try to keep the criticism realistic and with good standards, because of course we need to criticize also. Yes.
I think we need to be more rude. That's my thing. I'm being serious here, because you know how the left is always like flipping you the finger and screaming at you into your camera and being obnoxious, like we saw yesterday. And you know, if just what you just said would be a headline in the mainstream media about how horrible you are, right? And it's just so that the asymmetry is so visible that I think we could be more rude. I think we would take advantage of being more rude. I think we can do that. Not in an obnoxious way, but to set the standard that if you want to have an adult conversation, you need to speak as an adult. If not, I'm just going to be rude. And I think that is a step forward that we can take with us, and also start speaking your mind. Don't be afraid of what people think of you. I don't think labeling is such a big deal anymore. I don't know, conspiracy theorist? I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm a racist, I'm a Nazi, you find a label, throw it at me, I've heard it before. Okay? And I don't care. And I'm rude.
Just for the record, Rebecca, I don't think you are a Nazi.
Yet.
That will never be.
I suppose I would say the increasing professionalisation that we're seeing across the continent when it comes to movements opposing mass migration and parties that are opposing mass migration. Like if you just take the event that's happened here today, it's an incredible event that's been put on. It's very well produced, very organised. You clap if you want, yeah. The optics of events like this does wonders to present our position as more than just what the media says it is, when they'll take pictures of some crazy person at a protest or waving some, weird flag or something, God forbid, and they'll say, oh, that's representative of the entire movement. But when you put things like this together, and it just shows the high quality and the professionalism that is at disposal within this wider pan-European movement, it does wonders then to show ordinary people that, it's not just crazy people. There is reasonable people who are opposing this. There is reasonable parties that are opposing this. And I think if we continue to professionalise that, it will be very hard for the media to continue to lie about us.
Well, I think we first and foremost must do exactly what we are doing now. We must expose all the lies, the disinformation, the propaganda that we are presented with every day, from the political elites, from the media, from the academic institutions, all over from the established elites in society. The massive narrative that we are being exposed to means that you and I and us as voters cannot take informed decisions about migration and remigration. That means that we are suspending the democracy, that the democracy doesn't work. In other words, we have to spread the word and make more and more people understand what is really going on. Then we can enforce political change. Thanks.
So this is the toughest question of the day for me, not because it's a hard one to answer, because I'm only given 2 minutes. I literally can speak about this for hours and hours. But I'll focus on just one aspect, and that is that we must energise the youth. This thing is I've been involved in for 35 years, been talking about mass immigration, only in the last couple of years with remigration. But it's the young folk that's going to deliver it for us, because it's the young folk that need it to happen. So we need to encourage these people to become active in their communities, be confident, complete their education. Don't waste it being online edgelords, going to demonstrations and misbehaving. I did that for the first 7 years of my nationalist activism, and I've been trying to, recompense ever since. I helped create the stereotype I'm now fighting against. So we need to capture our youth early, get them involved. The Homeland Party's membership is 70% of our membership are under 30. That's an incredible thing to happen in the UK, because we're getting people energised, we're giving them confidence, and they're fighting for their future. So they can get good jobs, get housing, start families. I know young people at the moment who are living at home with their in-laws who have got children because they can't afford it. They have no future, and yet immigrants get it. So capture your young folk, keep them away from the extremism and the hardlinism that takes them down routes, that stops them getting jobs, loses their education. Get them motivated and active in local communities so that when the smears come from the enemy, that community can turn around and say, that's a good man, that's a good woman, they're doing positive things, and nothing will stop them making progress in the local community.
Our friend here just said that we should be more rude, and I could not agree more. But I think we should also be more true, and be true and always more true, because we live in a world, as I said before, where everything is false, is fake. We have Norwegians which are not Norwegian, we have men or women, we are not men and not women. Marble is not marble, stone is not stone. Countryside is turning, not in Norway fortunately, but countryside in France, for instance, or certainly in the United Kingdom is turning into suburb. Literature is not literature anymore, music is not music, everything is false. And there has been a world already which was entirely false, as it were, which was the Soviet world, where everything was a lie. And a world where everything was a lie can collapse like this with a match of truth. The Soviet world has collapsed in a few weeks because everything was fake, it was lying. I must say it's embarrassing to say that among so many leaders of important political parties, but I have doubts in the possibilities of election. Election cannot be honest in a world where the real power, what I call democracy, that is big money, holds the schools, or the press, or the university, control utterly the minds of the people like never before in history, because the modern means of communication, as they call it, imply control much higher than ever before in history. So I have doubts in the possibility of an election issue, but I believe in a revolt, and rudeness maybe, but maybe in people going in the streets like they did in Ireland, like they did sometime in Spain, like they did some recently in England, mass of people in the streets and peacefully just being there and saying they want the forced world to collapse. And so in England, there seemed to be even the poor beginning of worrying about what's going on, and we have to insist with always more truth. Like there has been a lot of truth said during this convention here, and giving the truth to people, but they realize the falseness of their world and encourage them to revolt and to obtain decolonization, which again cannot arrive in the colonial law, like is the law which is ruling us. So there has to be a revolt, and a civilized revolt, non-violent and very contrary to show the difference of civilization, very contrary to the behavior of our colons.
Thank you for very good comments, and I couldn't agree more, Renaud, about what you say, what we have to do. But in one respect, maybe I disagree with you, and that's I think it's a war going on, and it's a real conspiracy. That's my opinion. I think it's a war against national populations, especially in the Western world, and it's an evil thought about making people obedient, more like commodities, to exploit the world, to own the world, almost like Spectre in James Bond, you know. I'm the now retired chairman of the World Economic Forum. He reminds me a lot about Ernst Stavros Blofeld. He even has the same dialect. But this war we have to fight, and we fight an honest war. We have the truth on our side. I think it's very easy, and I have very low shoulders about defending our case. Because as long as we speak the truth, and we go for what's fair and reasonable, we have nothing to fear. We should be bold, and we should also be more blunt about things, Rebecca, absolutely, and hit harder as long as we know we're doing the right thing and that we defend a good case. It's no reason to back because of the fear of social condemnation. Many people are afraid to get expelled from the good party. I've never been that, and so many morals are probably like that, but we give a damn about people not knowing better. Judges are an opponent like us out of the good party because it's not a suitable opinion to have. So. So much for the strategy further. We will probably take more room in public when time comes, and we already do. We have to be more rude to the mainstream media because they talk about us, they talk down on us, but they don't talk with us. So we just have to cut the crap and arrest them when they call us things we don't are, because many people just turn their back to accusations instead of fighting back. You should really just fight back and say that this is not true because that and that and that. It's quite easy. So just don't lose head. Just keep on fighting because we have a very good cause. So thank you for everything to the contributors like Jeff, Rebecca, Jordan, Øystein, Kenny, and Renaud. Thank you very much. I'm so glad to get to know you. I know a couple from before, but the rest I hope really we will have many good conversations and exchange experiences and tips about how to proceed. I'll also thank Øyvind for the good guidance. He is our main speaker usually. he's an academic, and he's like me. He talks on autopilot. It's not strange. It's not strange to you, for you. And I also will thank all the good people that have prepared this. Yes, of course, and yeah. Sorry about that, Lena. I had to mention you too. I just didn't see you now. So you have contributed a lot, and you have been a main attraction here. And we all follow the Alternative for Deutschland, and we cheer you up because you're really doing well. So, and then I will thank everybody that made this possible. There has been some preparations. I said a long time ago, for once, we have to have some German precision here. So we have tried to have no loose ends this time, and I think we succeeded quite well in doing that. And I hope also the representatives of the media had a good time, and that they will refer this in an objective and a fair way, not just presenting their own opinions as they usually do. We have some niche media here that we know will be fair, but we also know some media that have been admitted entrants usually have their own agenda before the meeting, and they have their own conclusions before the meeting. I hope they will rethink a couple of things, and maybe be more on our side and on the side of the Norwegian people and of the peoples of Europe. Thank you. Thank you so much.